Yo, what's going on, guys? Ben here from Drones Road, and today we wanted to share a few insights we've garnered over the past few years in the digital marketing space. It's seen some pretty interesting changes, and one of the main themes that we wanted to talk about is how the integration between art and science, how it's driving brands to refine their content strategies to help include more video, and also why is video such a hot form of content marketing today? We're going to be talking about how you can use video going forward, not only to explicitly market your brand or educate your buyers, but to help connect with them on a more emotional and human level, to create these content experiences that are irresistible to your audience and make them really want to connect with you and your brand. And I want to inspire you guys to think about new ways that video can enhance your customer's journey, from that very first touch point in their journey all the way through that buying cycle. How can you use video to keep them engaged as lifelong customers? Let's start off by talking about something that's often overlooked these days, and that's your audience. That's an A for audience, guys. We've got this new generation of buyers coming through. They have different, new appetite, different expectations when it comes to what they expect to be marketed to. 75% of the global workforce will be made up of millennials in just 5 years. That's coming around pretty quickly. And the reason I'm making this point is that the way they interact and their buy behavior is so drastically different from traditional marketing. 80% of the buyer's journey now happens strictly online. I know I make up a lot of that stat. I'm sure you guys watching can fully resonate with that. But what this means is that we need to get better at engaging our audiences through all of our digital formats and connect with them better. I think the lines between sales and marketing are so blurred now. The two are so intertwined. When we look at our customers' buying journey, marketers are usually that very first interaction, and they continue to nurture that relationship right through that journey. And this constant connection not only keeps the customers engaged, but also builds a solid relationship between us and them. And video is that amazing tool that can do that. But I'll talk about that a bit more soon. Back to these millennials. This new breed of buyers, they have a new expectation around the type of content they expect to get. They've got pretty amazing ability to spot bullshit when they're scrolling through the feed and they see something that's potentially an ad. They can identify it straight away and go straight past it. So, they've got a very low tolerance for content that isn't, interesting or isn't engaging and isn't on their terms. Now, this is not to say that video is the only form of content that you guys should be doing, but, it's really important to diversify, your marketing strategy and make sure you're including it in every stage of that buying journey. Now, I think marketers over the last 10 years, they've developed a few bad habits, and that's not to say that they haven't done some great things, because they have done some amazing campaigns. But I feel like they've relied too heavily on, digital automation and doing things at scale. And it's come at a real cost to, personalized, humanized, engaging experiences. Wow, that's a lot of buzzwords there. Good work. Most websites have, a lot of text about what they do, and they have a lot of forms that we have to fill out. And don't get me wrong, these make our lives so much easier when it comes to, advanced forms of marketing. But often, we're forgetting a little bit about the end user's perspective when they are using that form of content. That really misaligns with some of the things we've talked about earlier around building that unique experience. So I think we need to think of some new ways to connect with these people and build a more personal and human relationship, to develop that trust and show that we really understand what our buyers are thinking and how to connect with them as individuals. So I think there's a huge opportunity for those of you watching, to use these different types of content to really connect with your audiences. Speaking of buzzwords, if you've ever consumed any content marketing content, you've probably heard these terms thrown around. You've got personalization, engagement, experience, trust, relevance. I'm pretty sure I've said all of those words already in this one video. But these modern marketing buzzwords, the hot property for a reason. Have a look at the graphic here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to look at that middle column. We're trying to go from generating leads to, generating demand and interest for what we're doing as a brand. Going from broad-based communications to something that's a lot more personal. Going from clicks to actually consumption. Cool, you've downloaded my ebook, you've watched this video. But what does that really mean? We want to know if the viewers actually watched the video and has actually, consumed that information, taken on board what was actually in it. And we can also use the data from that video to qualify them better as a customer and also get rid of some of the stuff that probably isn't quite resonating with our audience. We also want to go about building trust, going from just having followers, to having fans, raving fans. And the best bit about that is that they start to share your content through their social channels. So they're doing their job for you. I guess it's digital word of mouth, you could call it. So these are some of the things that marketers are trying to do right now, and it's a real mix of art and science, or MarTech, which is marketing tech. I don't make that word up, it sounds ridiculous, but here you go. It's about understanding, at the top of this graphic here, understanding who's the right person to engage with at the right time. I think that's more of a science for me. And as we move further down the list to things like, like engagement, building an experience and developing that trust, that's when our video content starts to really surface, and that's the creative side, the artistic side. And that's when you use video. That's going to play a huge role in your strategy. And the best marketers are finding a way to combine that art and science together and creating some pretty amazing campaigns. One of the big reasons why video is so powerful is because of something that's called the 4 E's. It's about the psychology of how we as humans actually process video content. So the first E is engaging. We're hardwired to engage in storytelling as a format as opposed to other types of messaging. And video has always been the best way to tell a story. Secondly, it's emotional, second E. It's an opportunity for us to connect with people and stimulate emotional responses, like laughter, happiness, inspiration, and so on. Thirdly, it's educational. That's the third E, educational. We process video 60,000 times faster than we process text. We also process video in our long-term memory, and we process text in our short-term memory. Fourthly, it's empathetic. It gives us a real opportunity to connect from one human to another. As humans, we look at the face to develop trust, and by having real people on camera, real employees, it's the next best thing from being there in person. It's a great way to establish and build that level of trust. So if you take anything away from this video at all, screenshot this, make it available for a download somewhere, and anytime you do some type of content, it doesn't have to be strictly video. Think about what you're doing and think about these 4 E's and ask yourself, is this piece of content we're creating, does it fit with two or three of these things on this list, these little check boxes? You'll find that the best content that you see on the internet or maybe on a television, a TV ad, is it's ticking pretty much 4 of these boxes all at once. It's pretty hard to do, but if you can find a piece of content that does that, man, that is the jackpot. Now, when it comes to video and business, there's an awesome quote from a dude called Brian Halligan. He's the CEO of a company called HubSpot in America. Some of you might have heard of it. It's $1 billion company. It's huge. And what he said is that 50% of your content should be video. Stop hiring bloggers and actually start hiring some producers. It's a pretty powerful message from a guy who's probably got a lot of insight as to what's actually working within that marketing space. And just touching on that, I've got a quick slide here that I've jimmied up from a company called Forrester. It's a research company, and basically it gives a little bit of validation as to what I'm talking about, how the market's actually seeing video content as a marketing tool. So what they did is they spoke to a whole bunch of businesses about, what's actually happening in that space. And it's no surprise that they found that video is playing a huge part of successful modern marketing strategies. And it's because it offers you that ability to showcase who and what you're about as a company, through storytelling, to engage a generation of buyers who probably prefer engaging and interacting with video content, which goes back to my original point, about addressing the way we need to meet their expectations of this new audience, and to better connect with buyers and meet their needs and motivations more easily. So you can see on the chart here that they've got a video content integrated in every part of that buyer's journey. Now, this research thing was about 17 pages long, so hopefully I've done it justice in this short little slide here. But basically they focus on 3 main points, and they call this the blueprint for effectively using video in your marketing. Now, the first point they say is to align your video production to the customer's specific needs throughout their life cycle. So this gives us an indication as to what type of content we should be creating and at what point through that buyer's journey we should be creating it. Now, the second one is to humanize your video content, to empathize with your buyers. And this is not just about telling the same story differently. It's actually about being smart and using those 4 E's we talked about earlier to create content that's really going to resonate with them. Now, the third one they touched on is about using a platform that's going to maximize the value. But we're not really touching on that today. That's probably got a whole video by itself. So we'll just stick to these 2.